Yeah, an interesting thing for me is that like doing this podcast is a super weird thing for me. I think this is like my 74th one that I've done. And I've always just been good at making cool videos with music, and I've been really good at using my camera and I've worked on, like I told you, I've worked on movies and worked on TV pilots and stuff like that. So I was always good at just like filming stuff and being in weird situations in the underwater, shooting cool shit, making stuff look cool and sound cool and just give you a really cool feeling. When you see a guy flying on a jet or driving in his Rolls Royce with some fucking Rick Ross beat in the background, it hits you. It just hits you. You know what I mean? It's a thing that you do that you can't articulate. It does something to you you can't put into words necessarily. And I got really good at doing that. And a lot of the stuff I was creating was getting, lots of views, hundreds of thousands, millions of views. And then doing this is the complete opposite of that. There's no music. There's no cool camera angles. I realized I am terrible at fucking communicating to people. I am the worst conversationalist ever. At least I was at podcast number 1. Now I'm a little bit better. This is like number 74. I'm a little bit better at having a conversation with somebody. I still suck. I'm still not an entertaining, charismatic person. I'm getting a little bit better every time I do it.
Yes.
But I enjoy doing things I suck at because it makes me better at that thing. Like I realize I'm terrible at doing this.
That is okay. That is the secret to greatness at the end of the day. You have to just be willing to suck at something. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we train people to be afraid of in school is failing. There's like this huge cost of failing in school, right? There's even F for failure. And then you repeat your grade. Your parents hate you because you're repeating your grade. It's like this horrible thing. And now we've created where no one fails even if they do fail. My mom's a teacher. They're not even allowed to fail their kids. They go, hey, if you want to fail kids, you have to fail. Like half the class is failing, right? She teaches inner city. Mm-hmm. Half the class is failing. They go, you can fail 2 kids this semester. And
really?
And you're still on people's bad side. Oh, yeah. We laugh about it at dinner, at the dinner table, because she's telling us about these kids that are just, they're not getting it because they've been pushed through school for so long that some of these kids are like at a 3rd grade reading level and they're in high school. And so they're going to fail no matter what. We should have failed them back then. Now they're just getting pushed through this system like cattle. But my point is that there's no encounter with failure that is positive and that we encourage and that, we we put in as a regular part of life. But that is what life is at its essence. It's exactly. A bunch of failure and then success. And you've kind of hit upon this thing, this, core principle of life that most people, they go through their life never getting to. They've never really failed at something because they've never really tried, because they're afraid to try, because they're afraid of failure. But ultimately, that's how you learn. And what you said is true. Like, I can already tell that you've been podcasting for a while. You can just sense it in the way you carry yourself, the way we even organize this whole business. That's how you get better. And at episode 1,000, when you get there, you're going to be a great interviewer, and it's going to be night and day. And there is no shortcut for that. Even if you try to teach people what you know, there is no way to get it into their heads. It's like being funny. It's like a comedian cannot tell you how to be Louis C.K. Louis C.K. cannot host a class. There's no way to do it because you learned it through experience. LeBron James can't teach you how to shoot a 3-pointer or dunk on somebody like he can, because it's just through slogging through hours, slogging through the dirt. Mm-hmm. And so it just drives me crazy where we have this generation of young entrepreneurs. They're all on YouTube. They're all trying to watch, how do I become an entrepreneur? And they're getting garbage advice that's self-serving to the people selling them garbage courses. Mm-hmm. And the message is, you're just missing a course. I saw an ad just the other day, and it goes, you failed in the past, and they underlined it in red. It is not your fault. It is your fault, and that's okay. Of course it's your fault. And the guy's like, you just haven't had the right opportunity. You wouldn't believe what a popular saying that is in sales pitches. It's not your fault. You just haven't had the right knowledge. It's not the knowledge gap. It's the effort gap. It always is. And if it is an information gap, it's an experiential information gap almost all the time. It's like you just haven't been in the situation enough. You know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. They find their ways to weasel into your mind with what you are doubting about yourself, especially if you're vulnerable. And failing is the journey to somewhere. Like the problem is these young people think that getting that jet, achieving that success is like you've reached the final level and you're there. Now you can finally be happy. But what they don't realize is the process of trying and failing and trying and failing. That is what success should be. That is what success should be, because then that is life. Life is ups and downs. If it's a flat line, you're dead, right? It's peaks and valleys.
Well, and that's where you get the most information is in failure. I mean, look, it's this old thing, but people who experience success early often fail late, because what happens is if you experience success early, you don't learn what you did. You're not really understanding what you could be doing better because you're already successful. And so there's no reason to sort of autopsy what's going on because, well, I'm succeeding. I'm already successful. And so it's actually a curse in some cases to experience success really early in your life because you never have those moments which teach you the most about your craft, which is like the points of abject failure. You thought something was going to work. You were sure it was going to work. You put a ton of work in, and then it flopped. That is what teaches you the most out of anything.
That's a really weird thing, right? That people that are young that get really successful really early, it's a sad thing when you see them like as little kids, like Macaulay Culkin, for example, and Home Alone and all those things he was doing. And now, look, he's kind of a crazy person now. And
well, why do you have to become a better actor, right? Like, why would you become a better actor? People already love you. What is there to improve? Everyone's telling you you're great. Why are they telling you you're great? Because your box office is great. So they just assume you're great when you're not. You're just somebody who just happened to hit the lottery, on that magical spark, whatever it is. But then you never go through that process. Now, some people, you can save it by becoming obsessed with the craft, but few people make that kind of negotiation.
And it's got to be it has to hit you way harder too when you haven't experienced failure and you're so like, I know a couple of young people that have made tons of fucking money in this internet world, and especially like gaming in particular,
sure,
that are so young, that have so much money, that have no life experience whatsoever. Like I've been sucking at most of the things I've done my whole life, and when you're 16 years old and you have millions of dollars and that only lasts 5 years.
Yeah.
That's gotta be fucking devastating when you get older.
Yeah. Because you never get the chance to see also the fruits of your labor. It's like almost like the fruits of your labor are uncorrelated, or your reward is uncorrelated to effort. And that's a really bad motivational structure. Like the best way to structure wins, if you want to incentivize yourself to do more hard work, is that you win after putting in the effort, not before. And so when people have their biggest success, they're on their first project, like I can't imagine what a disaster that is. I think like David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest is one of his first books. And he was, he even talks about, what a kind of curse that was. Shia LaBeouf went huge with Holes. And he's one of the people who like later fell in love with the craft, but there's all that period of just kind of freaking out very publicly because you're trying to negotiate like, wait, what is my career now? I probably got the biggest that I ever got. Like, that's weird. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. And a lot of them find like weird things later on too. Didn't he direct a bunch of stuff and try to do, he got into like music videos?
Other avenues of like experimenting and like finding new ways to reinvent yourself where you don't have that huge pressure on yourself. Like J.R.R. Tolkien did this. No, not Tolkien. Who am I saying? Hogwarts girl. Not Tolkien.
J.K. Rowling?
J.K. Rowling. She wrote under a pen name like Robert Galbraith or something like that. Why did she do that? Well, she wanted to like lower the bar for a bit so she could fail without having it also just be this big upset. You know what I mean? So she could experiment. She could experiment new writing styles, try to reinvent herself. Like that's another thing that happens is you get pigeonholed in your success. They want you to keep doing what you've been doing.
Yes.
They want you to like keep showing us the shame show. They want you to dance the same dance you've done. And you're like, hey, I've moved on. Can you like, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. When you start becoming so successful at something that you're never failing, it becomes sort of lifeless. And when you lose the struggle, right? When you lose that path, like getting from point A to point B, when you're already there, there's something about it where there's just when you lose that struggle and that, striving for success, I don't know. And people do want you to keep doing what you're doing because they're used to it. And
sure.
they want more of what they're used to, and they don't want things to change.
Yep. Yeah, no, eventually one day I'll move on. I kind of moved on from Coffee Break. I don't know if I'll go back to it. Probably will. But I'll move on from like fake guru content one day. And I'm sure people will be very upset about it. They'll be like, why can't you just keep giving us the same things you've been giving us? And it's like, I'm saying my piece and then I'm done. Like, I don't want to, this isn't just something that I want to do just forever. It's like, I want to make my point. And then when I feel like I've sufficiently made it, I'll move on to something else.